Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are Propelled by Plants.
Today we bring to you episode 323, From Obese BBQ Chef to a Healthy Vegan Chef with Jeff Tritten.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Jeff Tritten, and of course, he was a barbecue chef, and now he is one of the biggest plant-based advocates out there. He shares his story about how he lost 80 pounds in 100 days and how that motivated him to really change his life for good instead of being that yo-yo dieter. He gave up more than just meat. He also gave up 150 pounds. So we talk about the role of diet and exercise and which one holds more value. We're excited for you to hear about that. And we really want you to stick with us till the end because he gives amazing tips and tricks to speed things up for you in the kitchen.
Jeff is a very passionate plant-based diet advocate, and he's seen massive results from no longer consuming animal products and now has been able to lead and coach many others along their journey to good health. He creates plant-based recipes. He is a small group leader for a plant-based nutrition support group, and he continues to inspire and participate in farmers markets and senior centers in helping them become healthier. Stay tuned, listen to this episode, share it out. There's lots of great information, and it's such a great story that you're going to want to share and not miss.
I know exactly what you're thinking. What do I make for dinner? How am I going to get it done? How could I possibly stay so organized that I won't have to run to the grocery store midweek? How do I know what you're thinking? Because I'm always getting emails, PMs, DMs, and I even get stopped in the grocery store to be asked the same thing. So this is what I want. I want you to be the master of meal planning. Just click on the link in the show notes or go to planttrainers.com/shop and I'll walk you through how to plan, shop, and prep for a full week's worth of food so you don't have to get the takeout that makes you feel bad and bloated, so you don't have to stay up till 10 o'clock at night making a perfect meal because let's face it, that's not going to help your health either. You need to be exercising, talking to loved ones, binging on Netflix. You can choose how to spend your extra time, but you don't need to spend that extra time running to the grocery store in the middle of the week, in the kitchen, or wondering what to make. Go to planttrainers.com/shop, click on the Meal Planning Mastery link, and become a rock star.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
Lately, I have had 3 different mothers who I've worked with who I have been able to help them and educate them so that their energy can be higher, so that their discomfort can be less, and so that they can get back to being the wife and mother that they really, truly once was and want to be. And I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to talk with them, share with them, and help them.
I'm grateful for this time of year. Although it's getting a little bit cooler out, we're still taking advantage of getting outside and using our barbecue and cooking up some great meals for the family and spending time sitting on our deck enjoying them. So I'm grateful for those moments.
Jeff Tritten, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you too. And yeah, we can see you. It's been a long time that we didn't have video on these podcasts, and now we do. So welcome to everybody who can see us too. Do you have a moment of gratitude you want to share with us and the listeners?
Absolutely. I think one of the coolest things about being here in Southeast Michigan is PBNSG, if you can see it on the shirt. We've got a fantastic plant-based community here that is very supportive, and if you don't have a community of some type, get involved, whatever it might be, because I tell you, they've become my closest friends and my greatest allies and supporters, and the last 2 years have been invaluable, especially with them in it, so very thankful for them.
So I love the shirt. I think I need to get one. We were actually going to ask you to talk about it a little bit. Since you did, can you give us the website or where you think people need to go to connect with PBNSG?
So if you're in Michigan, we even have a group in Toledo and one in Windsor, Canada, and we're slowly kind of expanding. We have a lot of small groups throughout the state. I think we're at about 37 or so, where people meet, usually in public places, a community center and that type of thing, where we do whole food, plant-based, oil-free potlucks. We have a lot of ideas that we bring to our small group hosts that they can share, whether it's cooking without oil, or how to best stock a plant-based pantry, or the latest in nutrition science and that type of thing. So pbnsg.org is the website. So that's one spot. And certainly there's other groups around. Some people that are a little bit more remote I've seen have luck on meetup.com. And of course, Plant Pure Pods have pods all over the place as well.
Very cool. So we'll put links to those in the show notes at planttrainers.com so people can connect with that great group and meet some other amazing plant-based people and get healthier all together. We're here with you today, Jeff, because we came across your amazing story and we thought it was really inspirational and very important for our listeners to hear about, because I'm sure in some way somebody listening will be impacted. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, about being that barbecue chef to being the chef you are now and living the lifestyle you're living now?
Well, it was an interesting transition. I spent a lot of years in the restaurant industry, and then from about 2011 through 2017, beginning of 2017, I had a barbecue restaurant in Southeast Michigan. And over the course of that time, I gained about 20 to 25 pounds per year and got to a whopping 348 pounds. So, as weight gain happens, sometimes people get some other metabolic issues like type 2 diabetes and blood pressure and, things like that. So I was struggling with kind of a whole host of things, but the thing that was really persistent was in 2015, I developed real severe edema. So I had swelling in my extremities, and particularly it was in my right leg. My ankle and foot would swell up just horribly, and it was pretty painful as well. And over the course of about a year and a half, I went to a couple of urgent cares, my primary care doctor. I had one urgent care do an EKG and said, "Oh, I see something I don't like. I'm going to, have you check into University of Michigan Hospital." Sent me to the ER there. They didn't really find anything. And then, I just got to a point where I'd had enough. I checked myself into a hospital. That was October 2nd of 2017, I guess it was. Gosh, my dates are off, 16 rather. So I checked myself into a hospital and stayed overnight. They ran a lot of tests. They just didn't address anything, and they just wanted to give me more pills. So, I talked to my mom about it, and I said, I'm not really sure what to do here. They're not giving me any answers. I'm still having gastrointestinal issues. I still have this severe swelling going on. I had real bad sleep apnea. I wasn't hardly sleeping. So when I was, at my business, I'd take a break and I'd sit down and I'd be falling asleep. I mean, I couldn't spend 2 minutes at the computer before I was nodding off. I was so exhausted. But we did work like 90 hours a week, so it was a little crazy. We had a pretty booming business. But my mom said to me, "Don't fill those prescriptions." She says, "Food is medicine. Do the damn research." Mm-hmm. I said, "All right, well, I can't really go into work." So my partner was managing things at the shop, and I did, and I embarked on an anti-inflammatory diet. So I cut my dairy consumption down to next to nothing, and I stopped eating beef, chicken, and pork. And in 3 weeks, lo and behold, that edema was gone. And in 100 days, my blood pressure normalized, my sleep apnea went away, my blood sugar normalized, and I lost 80 pounds in 100 days. It was crazy. So, I was like, wow, there's something to this. I'm going to keep researching. I watched Forks Over Knives in February of 2017, And that was like real eye-opening. And that at that point, I stopped eating dairy altogether. I continued to do some research. I came across believe it or not, not a nutritionfacts.org video, but an old lecture that Dr. Greger did. And I can't even remember the gist of it, but it was when he was younger. He still had hair. He was, wearing something that was reminiscent of the 70s or early 80s, kind of a dark brown type thing. And he was lecturing at a university, and they had videoed it. It was probably early 90s, is my guess. And that's when I decided that I needed to, really take a look at my protein sources, because I followed that protein power diet for years, low carb in it. And, it was just ingrained in my head that I had to have high protein. And if I wanted to lose weight over the years, besides my barbecue stint, I'd just go on a low carb diet and drop 20 or 30 pounds, gain it all back and then some. But, there was certainly a yo-yo effect, but I didn't know that was a possible way to lose some weight, despite the detriments to the rest of our health. But I guess, I decided that I was getting enough protein in my diet, that all the plants had protein. And I think that was the hardest thing mentally to overcome. And I think that is for a lot of people. And, as I just continued on my journey, the weight just dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And over 20 months, it was a total of 168 pounds. I'm in the gym frequently now, something that I enjoy. I love to bike. I don't kill myself. And a lot of people ask me if the weight loss was as a result of the gym. And no, the first over a year, I wasn't in the gym even a little bit. For the first probably 13 or 14 months, it was diet and I walked. Took a 20-minute walk here and there, and that was really about it. And, they say we only need about 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. And so I was doing roughly about that. And, that's about it. I mean, it was surprisingly easy. I had struggled in the past trying to drop a few pounds here and there, and this just kind of melted away. And it was just like, wow, I guess that's how my body's intended to be fueled. So that's been kind of the gist of my journey in the beginning. And then, I'm not sure what questions you have at this point.
So I wanted to know, when you went to your mom to ask her what to do, is that because she is your mom, or is she a professional of some kind that you had more trust in her?
Well, because she's my mom, for sure. But also, she was very healthy. Almost 70 years old, still working practically full time, manages her house beautifully and her massive lawn and gardens and all that type of thing. She's very active, very healthy. And I would say that she was on a pescatarian diet, so eats some fish. But she also stopped eating dairy at the same time that I did. It was her and I watched that Forks Over Knives together. And she made the decision as well to take that out of her diet. And that helped her out a lot, too. She was having some small intestine blockage, some inflammation that would happen, which was a result of a surgery, basically. And, pretty much after she quit the dairy, that mostly went away. So
those first 100 days, those just a little more than 3 months that you stopped eating the meat, how did you feel throughout that process? Was that challenging for you if you were still working as a barbecue chef? What was that like?
So the answer to that is, I think the answer is no. I don't miss meat. There's nothing about it that I miss. You'd think that it would be hard, and I ate a lot of barbecue in my life, right? But I think the cool thing for me personally is that I do love to cook. And so it was an opportunity to try a lot of new recipes and to experiment with things. So in that regard, I'd say that it wasn't difficult to do. But as far as I think when people see results like I saw immediately, I think psychologically that says I'm staying in the game. And the people that just sort of dabble their toes in it and it's not helping and that type of thing, it seems like they fall off pretty quickly. But when you go all in and you see those type of results, I mean, gosh, in a couple of months, I was off of my CPAP machine and I sold the stinking thing. I knew I was never going to need it again. And to have all of those health conditions just melt away was absolutely mind-blowing. And to have the weight just drop off like that, I mean, I had really struggled for a lot of years with weight. So, it was mind-altering for sure.
So there's a couple of reasons I asked that, and one is because a lot of people that we speak to, they're going to dabble in it. They're not 100% in. They're not sure if it's the right thing to do. There's so much confusion when it comes to nutrition.
There is.
Like, you made a decision because your mom told you to. Not everybody has a mom that's going to tell them to do that.
It sounds like
she told me. Yeah, she told me to do the research.
Yeah.
Right, that's true.
And there's so much power in that, because so many of us, including us, have been so guilty of barfing information on people. And when you say to somebody, the information's there, go look at it. Before you decide what to do, go look at it. Go find out for yourself. And you're transferring that power from you, and you have no power over somebody. You're transferring that power from you and giving it to them. There's so much more that people can do with that. And I thought that was really great what your mom did. Like, what a great learning opportunity for all of us in this movement, but also as parents in general.
Right. Yeah, it was certainly, I'm a do-it-myself kind of person anyways, and I think my mom knows that. But, her admonition to me was, don't fill the prescriptions. You don't need to be taking more prescriptions. And she's not a doctor, but she's like, food is medicine. You'll find it. You got to look. So I did.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I just find that people are very hesitant to do anything about their lifestyle until they're already in a position where it's too late. And then they say, okay, now what do I do? When the answer was in front of us all the time, the answer's on our plate all the time. We just need to make that choice. But it's very hard to get people to make that choice if they're not ready to make the change.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is sad to me as well that people, have to have something drastic happen in their life in order for them to make a change. That was the case for me as well. But we're also sort of a pill-driven, convenience-driven society as well. And as a result, it's, I'll just go see the doctor. He'll give me some pills that'll take care of it. We don't think about food in terms of nutrition and nourishment necessarily. We think of it in terms of convenience and hunger. And, you just take a drive down the street and you see so many fast food signs and quick in and out restaurants, and restaurants are expected to get you a meal on your table in under 20 minutes.
And when you're waiting in line to buy your apples at the grocery store, they get you with the candy on the at the checkout. It's everywhere. It's totally everywhere. And I think that, it's so different 10 years ago than it is right now, but we didn't make a change until we were in that kind of situation. However, we didn't know any of this information beforehand. Nobody had said to us, like, as personal trainers, as people who wanted to look good, wanted to live healthy lives, nobody had ever passed this information to us. And I think that a lot of information today is being passed around a lot more than it was 10 years ago. But for a lot of people like you and like us, we didn't find out that information until we had to.
It wasn't as readily available. The internet was just getting started 10 years ago and really booming, and all these people, now there's communities everywhere on Facebook, on Instagram. You can meet people like the PBNSG.
Exactly.
There's so many communities and possibilities now that there weren't 10 years ago.
So were you the type...
Well, and I don't know... Sorry, I don't know that the research was there 10 years ago either. I mean, you think Forks Over Knives came out in 2011.
Right.
And, you didn't really, if you start looking at the research on nutrition and diet and plant-based diets, it's really only been in the last 10 years.
Just wanted to make a little insert here for those of you that are coaches and consultants and trainers like we are 4.5 years ago, we started this podcast because we wanted to help the world. We wanted to get our message heard, and we wanted to bring in more clients into our business. So if you are someone who is looking to grow your business, if you're someone who's looking to have your message heard, please head on over to veganpodcastacademy.com. Check out our training there with 3 shifts that we took to be able to make our podcast what it is today. We're so excited for you. And if you ever thought about podcasting, then this is going to be your chance. Come join the Vegan Podcast Academy. See you at veganpodcastacademy.com.
What did you find first? Do you remember what you found first? Because we were like Sage just turned 9, so this started for us 10 years ago.
Yeah, I found the China study, and that had just come out when I started, and then I found Dr. Esselstyn, Forks Over Knives in 2011 just came out, and I saw it like just when it came out. So yeah, it was all around that time too.
Were you the type of person who would have said before, like let's say a year before your journey started, would you have said, oh, I'm a carnivore, I can never give up meat? I know once you gave it up and decided to, that was a non-issue for you, but before you knew this information.
I had dabbled in vegetarianism like 10 years ago and didn't mind it, but, sure, I was a guy that grilled steaks for the family every weekend, and you want to talk about grilling some meat. I mean, we had a pretty booming business. We did a lot of catering. We had a couple of food trucks, and you're just talking about thousands of pounds of beef and pork and chicken and salmon that we smoked every single week. Unbelievable amounts, and unbelievable amounts that people ate just blew my mind. So I would say that if 5 years ago you said, you need to be vegetarian or vegan, I probably would have looked at you and said, yeah, what for? Right. That's silly, but I don't know. So I guess that's my 2 cents there. I'm not sure.
And so when you made all these changes, did that get changed in the chef department as well? Did you stop doing the barbecue? What happened in your professional career that way?
Okay, so because I was really pretty ill for a couple of months there, I wasn't at the business every single day, but still taking care of the books and taking care of the taxes and booking events and working with catering contracts and things like that. But just not day-to-day operations. And I was trying to make some changes there, but my partner was like not going to have it. I'm like, we're kind of probably making people sick with this, and the hottest food trend going right now is vegan food. We should probably think about making changes. And my partner's like, no way, not changing anything. And we had seen a lot of people request vegan options from a barbecue place, and I was kind of thinking, what in the world? So I was seeing some of that, but I guess I saw the writing on the wall that partnership probably was not going to work out. So first of the year, 2017, I asked if they wanted to, take it over completely. And they agreed that they would do that, and as well as take on any liabilities. So I walked away pretty much with nothing, but not with any debt or anything like that. So it's kind of nice, a pretty clean break for me. So January 2017, I was washed my hands of it.
And so where did that bring you now? So what are you actually doing now?
Okay, so I do a number of different things. I am a research junkie, and that's probably, why I did okay finding my own way into the plant-based world without somebody telling me that, oh, you got to go vegan, man. So with that, I guess I consider myself a bit of a nutrition nerd. I don't know if you've seen any of the articles that I've written and that type of thing on colorectal cancer and type 2 diabetes and things like that. So a lot of what I do now has to do with writing nutrition-based articles. You can find a lot of those on my blog at arespectfullife.com. Some other places that I publish as well, but so that, and I do some coaching. But the really weird thing about getting away from the restaurant is The community that I'm in is fairly small. There's about 9,000 residents in the city proper. It's more in the surrounding area, and I'm basically a suburb of Detroit. But the community itself is pretty small, and having a business in the downtown district of the suburb, I knew a lot of people, and I was so connected to the community. And the Chamber of Commerce was next door, and the Main Street group was on the other side of us, and I catered for the mayor constantly and knew the city council and that type of thing. So I found that being away from it, I felt really disconnected from the community, and that was just really odd for me. So an opportunity came up for me to do some cooking demos at the local farmers market. And so I started doing that. And so what I would do is find out what produce was in season, what the vendors were going to be bringing to the market, and then create plant-based, oil-free recipes surrounding that. And I talked to people about plant-based nutrition and optimal health and how to cook without oil and things like that. So it gave me an opportunity to be connected back with the community, but also use my cooking skills to, demonstrate to other people how easy it is to cook healthy food.
And what kind of outcomes have you seen? What kind of feedback have you been getting from people?
I've had a few people that have decided to embark on a plant-based journey, but there's several even of my customers now that are trying to eat a whole lot healthier and to limit their meat consumption and to increase their plant proteins and their plant consumption. So it's been pretty impactful, I think, on the community. The radio station had me on. The local news, did a big article on it and that type of thing. So, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it, and I enjoyed reconnecting with a lot of my customers. And funny thing is, a lot of them didn't recognize me, because here was this great big 350-pound guy, and now I'm under 200 pounds, and they're looking at me going, "You look familiar," but and then they'd hear my voice and go, "Oh, Jeff, yeah."
It's half a Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, it's been fun.
And you talked about being in the gyms and biking. So is that something that you do outside the gym as well, or are you a gym rat? What do you have going on in terms of fitness?
So as far as the gym is concerned, I have my share of muscular skeletal issues. So I'm pretty careful. I stay away from free weights personally. I use mostly Nautilus machines. So I do a bit of all body resistance training, and then as far as bicycling is concerned, I have a 21 speed mountain bike with road tires on it. So I'm just all over the area here. I'm in a pretty neat area. There's a lot of gravel back roads and things like that are real hilly. So it gets to be a challenge. And then I have several friends that are parts of bike clubs, and we have a 35-mile, what they call it, border-to-border trail that's from one city to another. So I'll do that, or bike out to Belle Isle and outside of Detroit and that type of thing. So
the exercise only came in a little bit later after you started losing the weight, right?
Right. Yeah. It was over a year later that I started, really going to the gym. But I think it's difficult when you're that heavy to feel motivated to, get on a treadmill and things like that. And the people that just say, I'm going to do this, and they don't understand the diet portion of it, and they just decide they're going to get on the treadmill and go and go and go every day. It can be really hard on the joints, especially when you're talking over 100 pounds of excess weight.
Right, and so you lost some of the weight. It gave you the energy and the drive and the motivation to start going to the gym and doing some exercise. And now you fill that energy with good exercise to make your body feel good. But the foundation was really the nutrition. And
nutrition first.
Yeah, a lot of people think that you got to do the exercise to lose the weight, and they forget that the weight actually gets lost with what you put into your mouth from the kitchen. And that's a very important piece that I think a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah, I always say you can't outrun a bad diet, right?
Absolutely.
I see a lot of people trying to kill themselves in the gym, and I'm like, And you gotta beat the fork before you beat on your body.
You got to put that energy onto the chopping board first, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So talk about the chopping board. I know that I only learned how to cut peppers, I'm going to use air quotes and say properly, about 2 years ago. A friend of mine had taken, she had gone to chef school, and I was watching her prepare a stir fry or whatever it is that she was making us for dinner. And I was like, so that's how they get the peppers to, all be the same size. So being a chef and being plant-based, what kind of tips or tricks can you give us? Like, what do you know that people are always cutting things wrong, or we can get more out of the vegetables or fruits that we're cutting? What kind of tips can you give us without doing a demo?
Don't be afraid of it. First of all, in my opinion, unless you're really trying to get fancy, there's no wrong way to cut a vegetable. There are certain tricks that'll make things go more quickly. For example, an onion. Take an onion, you cut the ends off, you cut it in half, so the flat side is down, so it doesn't slip, and you cut your fingers, and you cut slits into it one way, and then you go the other way and dice it. It's kind of like the flour method, they call that.
So when you cut the onion, are you cutting it in half from where the little ends are, or are you cutting it across from end to end? Yeah,
I'm cutting it in half from the ends and putting it down so the flat part is on the cutting board, so it's not slipping around on you. Just, that way you avoid... Do different every time? Cutting your finger. Yeah, well, a lot of people try and cut them on the round, and if you've ever slipped and put a finger into your little or put a knife into your little finger, that's not very fun. I mean, that'll make you cry, especially with onion juice in it, and I've done that. Yeah. So years and years ago, I think I was about 26 years old, I did that in a restaurant, trying to cut it in rings, and don't bother with that. So...
I like what you said, that there's no right or wrong way to actually do it, and it's going to just save time if you do it differently. But I think that's one of the challenges that people have in the kitchen. They think that, I got to eat plant-based, and it's going to take me so much time to now prepare my food. And there's so many tricks and ways to do things a little bit faster. So that's diced frozen onions, diced tomatoes, cut green beans, and that's how I'll make a soup when I'm really in a rush. Yeah, but it's not as economical to buy everything diced.
No, that's for sure. But the joy of a food processor too. I mean, you can get some of that stuff done very quickly in a food processor. And one of the things that I've tried to do is, for my blog and for other people, I try to develop recipes that are really pretty easy for most people to do. And I call them one pan or one pot recipes. So you can literally throw all the stuff in there and let it cook for 20 or 30 minutes and it's done. So, a lot of those things, when you're talking about doing chilies, soups, stews, things like that, you can use a food processor and just pulse it and chop the stuff up really quick and throw it in there. I mean, it's just not a big deal. I mean, you're talking about trying to get a nutrient-dense meal that's also going to be satiating and flavorful. So, throwing the green pepper, just chunk it up and chunk up the onion and throw it in the food processor and pulse it a few times, and you can throw it in your dish, and it's not really a big deal.
I find sometimes it makes it a little watery, and can that ruin my dish?
I don't think so. No, I mean, if you think about it, it's that's all flavor that's in those liquids. Those are waters and oils and things that are part of the plant, and it certainly flavors it. So no, especially like if you're talking about a chili, no use hand dicing onion to throw in a chili.
So you mentioned earlier that you do your cooking without oil, and that's shocking a lot of people that are probably listening, because they're thinking, well, I know not us.
Well, no, a lot of our listeners are oil-free.
But there are some that still use oil to start their stir fries or to prepare their soups or their stews. How do people get away from the oil, and what do they do in replacement of that?
So kind of a funny thing, because when I was introduced to PBNSG, which would have been a year and a half ago, a little more than that, they were talking about no oil, and I was like dumbfounded, because I thought, how in the world do you cook without oil? I've been cooking in a restaurant most of my adult life, right? And You always use oil. You use oil in everything, and that's why it's hard to eat out if you're oil free. So the thing that I tell people, the two best hints, especially for sautéing, is to use a good quality non-stick, hard anodized pan that's not Teflon, because Teflon will flake off of there. But use the hardened pan, and like Scan Pan is the brand that I prefer. And you just got to turn the heat down a little bit. You're not, cranking it like you would just to quickly sauté things. You're turning it down to medium or less, and just put a couple tablespoons of vegetable broth or low sodium tamari or water or whatever in there, and you can just simmer it that way, and it works just fine. You can caramelize onions that way. You can do that in a ceramic pan, or you can do it in the, So it does take a little bit better quality pan typically, not for everything. But the thought that we have to saute everything in oil is kind of ridiculous. We just don't have to do it. You get the same flavors out of the vegetables if you do it with a little bit of water, and if it sticks a little bit to the bottom of the pan, you can throw a couple of sprinkles of either water, vinegar, or white wine, or whatever you'd like to cook with to deglaze the pan, to basically take those little darkened particles off the bottom of the pan. There's a lot of flavor in that, and that's actually a cooking technique that they use in a lot of fine dining as well.
I like that. What about getting the most out of the garlic? Does it really help if you smash the top of the garlic with the flat of the knife and then chop it up?
One word. Maybe it's two words. Garlic press.
I love the garlic press. I hate cleaning it out after, but I love using it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you take the tip of your knife and get it right away before it gets all sticky and hardened on there, that's the best way to do it. But so I'm a garlic press fan. There are not too many dishes that I don't use a garlic press with. So that's that, in my opinion, that's the only way to do it. And if you're really that lazy and you really don't want to, you can buy minced garlic and water. A
lot of it comes in oil, but I think the frozen ones will come in.
They do have them
water.
in water.
Yeah, it's. I find in the States there's more options in terms of frozen things like that are actually oil free, especially if you have it Whole Foods or something near you. Okay, getting back to the garlic. So there's garlic shoots, right? But then if you let your garlic go for too long, inside each bulb, a garlic shoot starts to grow. So is that really bitter, and do you need to cut that out?
I say no. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, it is a little bit bitier, but I wouldn't call it bitter. It's kind of like eating chives. Very similar, or the top of a green onion.
Oh, but not the one that grows out of the middle of it. Like each little... Oh, clove, not bulb. Each little clove, if you let it go too long, then you start to get a shoot in each little clove growing in the bulb. What about that?
Well, I don't.
You don't let it go.
They don't last that long.
Anyone could let it go that long. Maybe you're buying too much garlic or not using it often enough.
Oh, if we go away and then come back.
No, we got to use more of it.
Yeah.
There you go. Amazing.
So no, I don't think that part is bitter and has to be cut off. I think that's a misnomer.
Some great tricks and tips. Thanks so much for sharing those in the kitchen. That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your background and inspiring people and influencing them in your community to think plant-based, go plant-based, take out the oil, doing those demos at the farmer's market. That's all awesome. Continue to do that great stuff. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
If people want to reach out and connect with you, where would be the best place for them to go?
Well, I guess that depends on your social media channel, but I use the moniker Respectful Living, so I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or at arespectfullife.com, and all of the social media is linked that way. So I put a lot of articles, I put a lot of recipes out there, some thought-provoking articles as well, like about pathogens and parasites found in animal products, and just to get people thinking that maybe we're not really meant to eat that kind of stuff, certainly not in the quantities they do today. So
Absolutely. And we're going to link to all of those that you just mentioned in our show notes at planttrainers.com so that anybody listening can find it there as well. Thank you so much for your time today. I know we appreciate it. I know our listeners have probably learned a lot and have been extremely inspired. I can't wait to share all these tips with everybody about the kitchen because my big thing is that I'm not a chef. I make recipes, I post recipes, I help people, but not a chef in any way. I just do it the easiest way feels right to me. So it's nice to get some insight from you as well.
Yep, you bet. You're welcome.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us, just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.